everybody, sorry for that late start there. My name is Jessica and I am a program assistant with Coach Art. Today on Coach Art's Facebook Live tutorials, I am going to be doing a watercolor tutorial and I'm going to be showing you how to do an array of these sweet treats. So we're going to do a cupcake, a popsicle, a lollipop. So if you don't already have your materials out, you can go ahead and grab some watercolor paints, some paintbrushes, your watercolor paper, and then some water. So I'm going to go ahead and switch the view, and I'll let you check out the artwork one more time. I also threw in like some sparkly diamond things. I don't know what it's called. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're not going to freehand these at all. We're definitely going to start by tracing in outline. So let's do the popsicle first. So the popsicle is really easy to draw. If you don't have a pencil, you can get a pencil. Or you could also use a little bit of, if you have a very thin watercolor brush, you can do a light tracing in a little bit of a color that you like. That way you can wash away if you don't like the outline. But a pencil works just as fine too. So the ice cream pop is going to be like a rectangle that's rounded, but then you're not going to finish off the rectangle at the top here. So let's go ahead and choose a section on the paper. And then I'm just going to draw a curved L for that one side. Then bring it over, bring it up. And I'm kind of making it go into so that it gets thinner at the top. And I'm drawing these zigzags, as you'll see. So I'm drawing these zigzags up here to make it look like somebody bit into the popsicle. So I just drew an L shape down, then it curved it and brought it back up, and I'm going to connect these two lines. So this is the basic shape for our popsicle. And then in order to, if you see here, this one has a little bit of icing. I'm going to draw a curved line. I'm drawing my lines pretty thick so that you can see what I'm drawing as I go. Don't draw your lines this thick. You can if you want the outline to show, but I kind of like it when you can't see it as well. You can see that it's a little bit different, but I'm going to go ahead and draw some squiggly lines. They can be completely random. It doesn't matter what they look like. And so then we're going to go ahead and draw the popsicle stick on the bottom. Okay, and I just did that by drawing a half curved U, or like a half of an oval, and I connected it to the bottom. Okay, so now we have that's our ice cream cone. So, or not our popsicle stick. So we're gonna go ahead and draw the cupcake next, so we can get our next treat down. The cupcake is pretty simple as well, but I like to draw it in pieces. So I start with the cup base, and I'm just going to draw a U. I'm just going to draw that first U shape. I'm going to put my cupcake down here this time. And you can make your cupcake as big or as small as you want. You can make a bunch of cupcakes and put them on display. I'm just going to show you how to get the basic shape down. That way you can play around with it and add your own flair to it. So I have the base of the cup down. I'm now going to add squigglies at the top of the cup. Okay, so that's gonna make it look like the fancy, I don't know, like it looks like an accordion, the paper for the cupcake liners. So that's what we want it to look like. Okay. So we have this. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and draw the actual icing. So I don't have it so that the cupcake is showing. I just have it so that the base is showing, and then on top the icing swirling up. So in order to do that, I'm just going to do it with my pencil. So I just start at one corner and I draw a curved line. I draw one curved line. And then on top of that, but like not exactly at that same point, I go in a little bit. I draw another curved line. And then on the other side, I do the same thing, but they're much shorter. So I just a quick little loop here. Right? And then you come up and you draw the last little hat. It's like a Hershey kiss. So I'm going to do that for you guys now on my paper. So I'm going to start on one side and just draw a curved line. That's the first one. This is the second one. And then I'm going to do the two on this side. Like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and tie it off. With the swirl on top. Okay? So they're coming along good. We have our two treats. The last treat that I have is the lollipop. The lollipop is the easiest to draw, right? So it's just the circle here, and then we have a line through the circle. If anybody's ever had to look at Tootsie Roll Pop, you know they have that iconic band through the middle. And then you have the stick that goes straight through, okay? So I'm gonna put my lollipop up here. I'm gonna start by drawing a circle on my page. Oh, that's bad. It's hard to freehand a circle. There we go. So it's a little small, that's okay. And then I'm gonna create one line through the middle, and then above that I'm gonna draw another line so that it looks like there's a band. And then beneath that, we are just gonna attach a very skinny rectangle, and we have our popsicle stick, right? Okay, so now the fun part is the coloring. The painting, you can choose from any variety of colors. The only thing that I kept true and realistic were the colors for the popsicle sticks. I kept them brown, but I kind of went crazy for the popsicle colors and, you know, the lollipop colors. Gave it some fun vibes there. So I'm gonna go ahead and go into my water with a brush. So I'm just choosing a brush. I'm getting it wet here, making sure there's no old paint on it. And I think I'm gonna start with the popsicle, the first one that we drew here. And we're just gonna choose a flavor. I'm gonna go with cherry. Cherry's a good flavor. So for cherry, I'm gonna go into my red paint while my brush is wet. Dip in there, get it pretty wet, the puddle of paint going. And I'm gonna go onto my paper and start by outlining. Depending on if you want the color to be very deep or if you want it to be a little bit more faded, So if you have very heavy lines, you might want the color to be a little bit deeper so that you can't see the lines as well. But also I know a lot of people go behind their watercolor paintings and they add marks with pen to make certain things pop out more. So you can do that too. But you can always add more color by just going back in if you want to sort of start to hide out the outline lines. If you like the very light wash, you can just keep that shade by going into your water before you go into the color pot. If you don't add more water to your brush, then when you go back in, the color will be very opaque. See right here, I am outlining the other side with the dark red. And the color's a lot thicker, but it will wash out as I add some water to my page. And we got a little bit of water, and we're just going to spread that color around. I'm not going in one motion, I'm kind of letting the paint do its thing. Just trying to make sure I cover most of the gaps. Okay, so that is my cherry popsicle. If you want, you can seconds to dry and then add another layer, and that'll just help to deepen the color as well. I'm gonna color in the icing now. I think I'm gonna make it like a kiwi, so it's like kiwi cherry, kiwi strawberry. So just going into the green paint. I didn't rinse my brush off that well, but luckily it didn't show up. So make sure you do a good rinse of your brush so that your colors don't mix together. So I'm just going into this green paint here, and I am filling in the top part of my popsicle. It looks super yummy. And I'm gonna rinse my brush off. And I'm gonna choose a brown for my popsicle stick again. I like it looking brown. I think this is a nice tan color. Going into my water, I'm gonna go into the tan. It's like a golden sandy color. And color in my popsicle stick. And that's our first sweet treat. You can add sprinkles and things to it. I think it's good with just the icing, but if you would like to add sprinkles, you can. Next, let's do the cupcake. So if you notice on the cupcake painting, I have the lines, right? You can see the through the cupcake, but we didn't draw any of the lines. So we're gonna do that by playing with the darkness of the paint, and we're gonna make the lines darker than the rest of the paint. So we'll start by choosing the color. I think I'm gonna choose, maybe let's do purple. We're gonna go ahead and get our purple paint wet, pick up a good amount of color, and we're going to start by outlining the cupcake. And I don't have a lot of water on my brush, so I have a lot of control over the paint and where it's going right now. If I had more water on my brush, it would have started to spread as soon as I put it on the page. So your outline doesn't have to be perfect. I am just trying to get a thick border. And then I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of water on my brush, go back into my paint and add a light wash to cover the entire thing. I want it to be a little lighter than my outline, so I'm going to add a little bit of water and do my best to blend it out. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry for just a second. Use my hand to fan blow it. And I'm letting it dry because I want to add the lines and I don't want to add it onto the wet paint, otherwise the lines won't be as defined. So I want to go ahead and let some of that water dry because I added a lot of water to get the lighter color from the edge. Maybe easier to blow my page around. So watercolor does dry pretty fast, right? Brush a little bit wet again, just a bit. That way I can pick up some color. And I want to pick up a lot of color. I don't want my brush to be too wet because I want to have control over the lines that I'm about to draw right now. So let's go ahead and I'm going to draw the lines. See each of these zigzags, there's a down point. I'm going to draw a line coming from each of the bottoms of those points. So let's see. I'm going to draw two of them straight down and then I'll show you. So I'm drawing it from the middle down. And I'm just going to clean up those lines. That kind of moved around. And I like to kind of curve it a little, the line a little bit as it gets to the bottom. So you can connect them. The paint might start to pool at the bottom. That's okay. You can connect them so they make like a little U shape. And I'm just re-outlining the top of this cupcake. And then we have our lines. You want to be careful with lifting the page like I have. If your paint is still wet and dripping, you can just go ahead and while it's still wet, move the paint back around where you want it. Sometimes the droplets will mess up your lines. So I'm just going to clean that back up. Awesome. Now we're going to do the icing. So let's see. Before I had a pink icing. We did a pink icing and a blue cupcake holder. I think a nice light blue icing. That could be cool. What flavor would that be? Like cotton candy? So I went into some light blue paint, a little bit of water, and I'm gonna go ahead and just start coloring in. I got a lot of water on my brush, so the paint is spreading pretty easily. My outline is very dark, so it shows very well through this light blue paint. So I'm just going to go ahead and use that to my advantage and let the lines help me to make it look like it is a cupcake. So I went ahead and I did a light wash of the blue paint across the entire upper half of the cupcake. And I'm going to go into some darker blue paint, and I'm going to go over the cupcake lines that I drew. I'm going to make sure you don't have too much water on your brush so that it doesn't start to mix too much. I'm just adding in this darker blue. It's going to help make my lines look a little bit better, make them look a little bit like they belong, and it'll add some dimension to the cupcake. So you can blend it. And there you have it. You can see that you can still see my cupcake lines, but I went over it with the darker blue color, and I think they work well together. So we now have 2 treats in our bakery, our watercolor bakery, and we're gonna go ahead and do the lollipop next. I'm gonna do an orange lollipop. So I'm just gonna go ahead and rinse my brush off, and then go into some nice orange paint here. I'm gonna, oh, this looks brown. Okay, my brush was not clean. Let's do a different one. I'm gonna take a piece of this paper towel, and I'm gonna dab it over my paint, and it kind of picks the paint up. You can still see a little bit of brown, but it's not gonna be as prominent in my brush. Much better that time. Okay, now it should be orange. Yes. So I'm coloring in with the orange paint. And I am coloring everything but the middle band. I don't have too much water on my brush because the circle is small. I don't want the paint to flood outside of that circle. And it's a nice deep orange color. Lollipops are made of a hard, very hard sugar. So I think making it more opaque makes a lot of sense. So we're getting that color there nice and thick. And then for the band through the center, I'm going to rinse my brush off, and I'm going to do it purple again. Use that purple that I used for the cupcake. And color the center. Some of my paint spread a bit. So I'm just using my paper towel again in order to pick up some of that extra paint. My brush was very wet. So this is if you ever have this happen to you, paper towel is like a little eraser. And then you can kind of clean up your mess and paint over it. And it never happened. Okay. And the last thing that we have to color in is the stick. So I'm going to use the same color that I used for the popsicle stick for the lollipop stick. Which one? I think it was this one. I think. I just need a little bit. The stick is so skinny. And I'm going to color one straight line right up to the base of the lollipop. And then we have it. We have our lollipop here, our popsicle, and then our cupcake. The last thing that we're going to need to do today is sign an initial at the bottom of our beautiful artwork. your full name. I like to use my initials and then I put a period behind. And we're completed. So we have some hopefully new watercolor drawings or paintings that you can add to your collection now. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I can't wait to see you next time. Have a great day. Thank you guys.